Com. Daily Caller has a interesting story. Mitt Romney would collect at least 72 of the 110 electoral votes available in 8 battleground states if Obama's current polling numbers, as reported by the Huffington and Puffington Post, are overstated by a mere 1%. Now, let me go back to Wednesday on this program, the day after the Wisconsin recall election. And I remember leading off the program with what I thought was the key point of the day. And everybody had their thoughts of what's the big lesson. And a lot of people were, the impact on unions, the literal loss of membership in public employee unions in Wisconsin was profound. It was one of the reforms that Walker initiated was an end to the state deducting union dues off the top of a union member's paycheck. The union member never saw it, just like the taxes, never saw the money. The state deducted it, and it went to the union, and then it went to the Democrats. And by the way, I have to tell you, I'm really pleased about something. I read voluminously last night about the Walker recall and the latest opinion punditry. And I was excited to see how many people are writing about the lesson learned in the Walker recall. And basically, if I had to synthesize it, it would be the point that I have been pounding home for 2 years now. Finally, taxpayers have realized that they are paying for a deal they don't get. Taxpayers finally woke up and realized that lifetime public employee union member gets a job, works for 23 years, retires, and gets 90% of salary as the pension and full health care until they die. And people who are out of work or don't make very much money are paying the taxes that fund all that. And finally, people woke up and realized that's not sustainable. I can't tell you how many people have come to that conclusion to realize that that's one of the primary lessons that has been learned by the public in all this. And that is fabulous. Because, folks, private sector union membership is down to 7%. The construction workers unions, the private sector union workforce is 7% of the U.S. labor force. It topped out way back in the glory days at around 35%. Now, government union percentage is a little bit higher, but it's coming down as well. That was a profoundly educational campaign. As the unions, when they retrace their steps here, they're going to rue the day they did this recall. They're going to rue the day they did all the recalls, because all that happened is the general public was educated. The general public woke up and finally understood what all they were paying for. And then they coupled that with the entitlement mentality of union people who would go on vandalous rampages if they didn't get what they want. So there are people writing in the aftermath of the Wisconsin recall about the real death of the unions. That initiative of Walker's, where union members could opt out of the state withholding their union dues, that pretty much was akin to, do you want to be a member of a union or not? And before the initiative, 60,000 people in Wisconsin were having their union dues withheld by the government. They never saw it. Something like 40,000 union workers opted out of that. It was a death knell. So that's all good. The second thing, and in a political sense, almost as important, because we know how flawed the exit polls were. At 9 o'clock when the polls closed, 50-50, too close to call on the cable networks. And by the way, the cable networks knew that wasn't true. I wish I could tell you how I know that, but I would be betraying a courtesy, and I don't want to do that. But trust me, when you saw the Chiron graphic on the network at 9 o'clock, race too close to call, they knew it wasn't too close to call, because I'll bet you also heard this. When you saw the Chiron graphic, race too close to call, you then heard somebody say, but we expect to call it in the next hour. Well, if it's too close to call, how do you know you're going to be calling it within that hour? The networks all send out memos, and the exit polls go to every network. They all combine, they buy them, and they all get the same data. And they all send memos out to their on-air staff and producers, series of them, in the course of the afternoon. And I was privy to a bunch of these, and it was right there. We expect to call the race between 9 and 10. There's a percentage chance that we will not, percentage chance that we will. So my point is that everybody knew, despite what was being reported on the air at the time, that the exit polls were worthless. It wasn't 50-50. It wasn't too close to call. But they like viewers, and the indecision and the unknown makes people stay tuned longer. I understand all that. But when it was all said and done, I know that one of the most important things going on at the White House, they're looking at all the polling data they've got from all over the country, and they're saying, what if this isn't right? What if none of these polls are accurate anymore? How many years has it been? How many elections has it been where the exit polls are dead wrong? You go back to 2004, and the first two waves of exit polls had John Kerry elected. Never forget old Bob Shrum. The story goes that Bob Shrum, who ran Kerry's campaign, went into him at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the second wave came in and said, Mr. Kerry, may I be the first to say to you, Mr. President? The real votes came in. They started being counted. The exit polls were nowhere near. So they said, okay, what's wrong? Why are our exit polls so wrong? They started a methodology. Then they discovered that they oversampled Democrats by 4 to 5% in the exit poll, like they do every other poll during the course of the year. So are the polls right? That's what they're asking themselves. So here comes this story. The Daily Caller. Mitt Romney would collect at least 72 of the 110 electoral votes available right now in 8 battleground states if Obama's current polling numbers are overstated by simply 1%. If they're off by 1%, Romney would win the electoral majority in Colorado, Iowa, Missouri, Ohio, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, Wisconsin, if there is simply a 1% undercount, and if undecided voters there split evenly between Romney and Obama. That would give Romney at least 253 electoral votes, just a few shy of the 270 that he would need. But if the undecided voters break for Romney by 2/3, Romney would win all of those states' 110 votes. That'd push him well above the 270 needed and earn Obama a helicopter ride home to Illinois. Trey Grayson, director of Harvard's Institute of Politics, is quoted here in the Daily Caller story as saying, it's a good reminder. Small shifts in votes can play a big role in electoral votes. Really? Grayson predicted that the battleground states are likely to break together, resulting in a strong showing for one candidate or the other. Not going to be split. A lot of these states have things in common, including Midwestern geography and higher than average populations of white voters. Tuesday's recall vote in Wisconsin was a good indicator of how badly some pre-election polling can perform. So now I guarantee you there is abject panic out there, because Axelrod and Pluff are asking themselves, my gosh, what if our data's wrong? And they're believing this notion how lovable and popular and likable Obama is. That's why this poll that came out yesterday, the New York Times CBS poll, 67% the American people want Obamacare overturned by the Supreme Court. Only 24% want it upheld. Makes you wonder, what's the real number? If they're willing to tell us that it's 2/3, what if it's 75%? What if it's really 70%? What if in that 24% there's some people afraid to tell the pollster that they don't like Obamacare? This is what they're asking themselves. And go state by state, they're looking at the independents and the undecideds. And they're really looking at the undecideds. Are these people really telling us the truth? And you know they're trying to factor things like the Wilder effect, the Bradley effect. And then there's the new specter they're considering. Are people just trying to screw with the pollsters? Are people just having fun with the pollster, purposely telling them things aren't true just to screw up the outcome? They're thinking about all of this because it's been too many elections in a row where the exit polls are way off. And by the way, a lot of the pre-election polls were too, but not as bad as the exit polls. Let's take a quick time out as it is. It's Open Line Friday, as you know, and we've got your phone calls to squeeze in. Bill Clinton has come out publicly, abjectly apologized for speaking out against the regime and speaking against the revolution. He spoke against the revolution. And Cory Booker has just been said to be dead. Cory Booker is dead to us from the Obama campaign. Cory Booker is dead. See, Booker was angling for a cabinet post in the second term. And that's what the White House reacted. No, he's dead to us. That ain't going to happen. This might be the best thing ever happened to Cory Booker for his career. A, he was honest. B, he stayed in tight with the money people. He didn't throw them overboard. C, he showed a spine.